Thanks for joining us today for our webinar, Using Trash Traps to Connect with Your Community. Uh, this is hosted by the International Trash Trap Network, which is co-led by Conservancy and the University of Toronto Trash Team. My name is Hannah and I manage the ITTN, working with both organisations, and I will be moderating today's session. So today's webinar focuses on discussing how trash traps can facilitate connections with your community. So providing opportunities for community empowerment, education, and engagement. And as we are the International Trash Trap Network, the examples that we'll be talking about today are focused on trash traps at the centre of this. But much of what we discuss, I'm sure, will be applicable to other cleanup efforts too. So volunteer-led cleanups too. So feel free to bear that in mind as we're having these discussions. We're very happy to be joined today by our presenters who will be speaking about their perspectives and insights from each of their projects. And they'll be sharing information about their programs and some ways they've used their trash traps to connect with their local communities. So after presenting, each of our presenters will have 5 minutes where we can ask any questions that we have for them. And then if you don't get your question in during that time, then we will have more time at the end where we'll have a bit of a panel discussion. And you can ask any further questions then to everyone or to anyone specifically. Before we dive in, a couple of housekeeping notes. So we are recording the session, I mentioned that already, and it will be available for anyone afterwards who'd like to revisit the discussion. So we will send it out to everyone who registered on the Eventbrite, and it will also be available on the U of T Trash Team's YouTube channel. So you can find it afterwards too. I mentioned this already, but just make sure you're muted if you're not speaking so that we don't get any background noise. And I mentioned Q&A briefly just then. When we get to the Q&A sessions, we'll have our team, Susan and Hayley and Chelsea and I will facilitate any discussions and questions by alternating between those who wish to ask questions out loud and those who want to type them in the chat. So when it is time for questions, you can either use the raise your hand feature on Zoom and we'll say your name and say you can ask your question out loud, or if you'd prefer not to speak out loud, you can absolutely just type your question in the chat and we'll read it aloud for you. If you have any thoughts or questions or things you'd like to share with us or our speakers after today's event, you can get in touch with us. Please do that via our email, which is info@trashtrapnetwork.org. And we'll share it again throughout the webinar, so this is not your only chance to write that down. Okay, so I think that's all the formalities out of the way. So we're going to get started on the content of today's webinar. I'm going to kick us off with just a short overview of the ITTN, how we work, and a bit about today's topic. So I hope many of you are already familiar with us, but if you're not, then the International Trash Trap Network is a global network of local groups working to increase plastic cleanup efforts using trash traps, which are also known as other things like plastic interception technologies, plastic cleanup technologies, and more. And there are lots of different varieties of these trash traps, and you can see I put a few on the slide here just as an example. They come in lots of different shapes and sizes, and we have groups using lots of different types in the network at the moment. I think we have about 25 different types of traps in the network today. So lots of variety. Collectively, through each local program, we aim to clean up pollution, use harmonized protocols and reporting to monitor local sources and pathways, and also to engage and empower our communities. And all of this together informs upstream solutions to hopefully prevent future plastic pollution. So although we're doing these programs on a local scale, collectively through the network, we're tackling this on a global scale. Why do we focus on trash traps? There are lots of benefits to using trash traps, which are some of the highlighted here. And this ranges from their ability to capture plastics that manual cleanups miss, so things like microplastics, which take a long time to collect, as many of you will know, heavy debris, being able to work around the clock 24/7 and accessing areas that might be challenging or unsafe for humans to get to. They're also really beneficial for what we'll be discussing today, which is for outreach, volunteer opportunities, getting communities together to learn more about their local pollution problem and what they can do about it. They're also really useful for data collection and research, informing policies, informing scientific research, and upstream action. And of course, all of this at the same time, they are cleaning waterways and mitigating ecological risk. So the ITTN aims to support each local programme in the network in cleaning up pollution, collecting their harmonised data and using their trap as a centerpiece for community engagement. And we do this partially through building links and connections between these local programmes. So we do it through events like this, where we get a chance to hear about what everyone's doing, share information, share thoughts and insights. And if you've missed any of our previous webinars, you can catch up on these on our YouTube channel, the U of T Trash Team's YouTube channel. Through our network, we also aim to connect groups who can have a mutual benefit from each other, share information on where different traps have been used in certain scenarios. And we're also here to support the development of any new programs. So if you think that we might be able to assist you or have any information that might be useful to support your work, please do get in touch. We'd really like to hear from you. We also provide informational support through the creation of these open access resources that we've developed. So these kind of fall into three broad categories. We have resources for project planning and implementation. We also have resources for harmonised data collection and reporting, and education and outreach. I'm not going to touch too much on our education and outreach resources, but we do have an educational activity booklet and instructor's manual that we made so that people can use these as kind of a basis for lesson plans or outdoor activities to engage people of different ages. And we also have a poster that you can use to position by your trap and adapt that to help people understand why it's there, the context, what it's part of being the ITTN. But we know that we're not the only people that have made resources for this, and I know there's lots of great ones out there. So if you do have any resources that you would like to share, presenters or otherwise, anyone attending the webinar, you feel free to email this over to us after the event. And what we'll do is compile all of that and I can share it out to all the attendees following the webinar so that we can make sure that if anyone wants to share anything, they have the opportunity to do so. Okay, so you can also become part of the network through our harmonized data, using our harmonized data collection protocols, or reporting your data using Ocean Conservancy's CleanSwell app. Some of you may be already familiar with this through using it for volunteer-led cleanups. But in essence, using this app makes data collection and reporting in the field much simpler than using paper data sheets. We really like using it. It can be used on both Apple and Android devices, and even in locations where you don't have good cell service. And when you use the app, you fill in data about your trap, about the waste you've collected, and when you submit your data, it goes straight through to our global cleanup database, which you got a sneak preview of then, which is called Tides. So Tides is the world's largest database of cleanup data. It includes data from people-led cleanups through Ocean Conservancy's extensive international coastal cleanup network, and it also includes all data that we've received from groups in the International Trash Trap Network. It's open access, so anyone can view and download the data in the database at any time, and we think that's a really valuable way to elevate all of your impacts and make sure that your data is usable not just for your local reporting or organisational reporting, but it can also be used by other groups for scientific research. And we know it's been used several times for this, scientific research and to inform legislation and policies. So if you're not already in the database and would like to contribute data, also get in touch with us via email and we can facilitate that for you. Okay, so back onto the focus of today's event. So using trash traps as a centerpiece is a very effective way to jumpstart programs that can achieve long-term systemic change. So trash traps are inherently interesting due to their sometimes unusual and very public appearance, like the examples here. This makes them ideal centerpieces for engagement, even with people who may not have had any previous interest in plastic pollution or related environmental issues. Trash traps also often don't run by themselves. They require people to make sure they run effectively. And so this provides plenty of opportunities for people to get involved via owning and running a program or maintaining the trap or assisting with things like waste sorting, data collection and reporting, or even running community events. And by using traps for this purpose, we can get more people engaged in the issue of plastic pollution, provide opportunities for them to see that pollution firsthand, understand that it's a local issue affecting their communities. It facilitates that kind of connection between people and their local environments and helps them understand the causes of that plastic pollution and also the solutions that are available. And through this, we can instill hope, we can build environmental stewardship, and we can help enact those behaviour changes that are really necessary to move away from our current plastic use, disposal, and management practices. And how can we connect with our communities? I'm not going to go into this too much, but there are plenty of ways to do this. And we'll be hearing more about that in the next few minutes. But I wanted to give some examples. So these can include public events and formal educational programs. So on the left photo, you can see our volunteers from the U of T trash team speaking to younger audiences on the Toronto waterfront about how pollution ends up in our waterways. Other forms of engagement include signage. A really great example here, which I've used before, I just love it, is Inspector Seaben, he's called, and an organisation called Sources of Knowledge, who are based in Tobermory in Canada. They installed three of these, I believe, around their hub front, around their marina, to share information about their sea bins that they had installed in the water there. There are also things like presentations, social media campaigns, information tables at events, and artwork and sculptures. And another example from the trash team is we were lucky enough to have an artist in residence, Emily Chudnovsky, working with us a couple of years ago, and she created this sculpture, which is called Tangle, and it's made from cigarette butts and lots of other pieces of plastic waste that we collected from our traps in Toronto. And she weaved this amongst plant matter to demonstrate how the two things interact in our environment, because we often find them entangled. So there are lots of other ways you can do this, and I will stop talking now so that we can hear some examples from our presenters. So I will stop sharing and I will let our first presenter open their slides. So our first presenter is Christy Tyler. She's an aquatic ecologist and a professor of environmental science at the Rochester Institute of Technology in Rochester, New York. She has a background in both marine and freshwater ecosystems, and her research interests include biogeochemistry, ecosystem restoration, and plastic pollution. And she currently serves as the co-director of RIT's Collaborative for Plastics and the Environment and the Lake Ontario Centre for Microplastics and Human Health. So, Christy, whenever you're ready.
Okay, thanks. Thanks so much for the invitation. Can you hear me okay? Slides are okay?
Yeah, all good.
Okay, great. All right. Well, I'm excited to share what we've been working on here in Rochester. Our program is Cascade. It's the Community Action for Stormwater Cleanup and Debris Elimination. And I am going to start with acknowledging that this is a really huge group effort. And at RIT, we've got a really great group of colleagues that include faculty and staff and educators and students, with an overall goal of using some of the community level data that I'll talk about today to look at sources and sinks, and then ultimately be able to generate solutions through collaboration and partnership. And I'll be mentioning a lot of our partners as I walk through things. First, I wanted to do a little overview of where we are. So we're in Rochester, New York, which is on the south shore of Lake Ontario, one of the biggest cities on the South Shore. And so as a result, there's quite a bit of debris that comes from our city. And then on the right is a map of Monroe County, where we're located with a reduced stream order classification. We have two main rivers in our region, the Genesee River and then Arundecoit Creek that goes into Arundecoit Bay. These all enter the Rochester embayment. But one of the things I always find striking about this map when we look at our watershed and the tributaries is this giant hole in the middle where we have no tributaries. And that's where the city of Rochester is. So going then to what that looks like a little zoomed in is that all of those little tributaries were probably they've been gone since a couple hundred years ago, and they really have turned into the sewer system. And so in Rochester, we have the combined sewer where everything is going to the treatment plant, both the stormwater and the municipal sewage. And we have separate sewer where the storm sewer is going directly out to Arundecoit Bay or out to the Genesee River. So it's really a combination of factors coming together to direct debris either out to the environment directly, or when we have a combined sewer overflow event, the debris will be all shunted, including the raw sewage, which is an increasing issue in our area given how our rainfall is being delivered, which is coming in more and more these giant storms. So we really started this project as a research question, where we wanted to know how much debris was entering the storm sewer to try to back out some of the numbers on the total amount of debris entering the Great Lakes. My colleague here at RIT, Matt Hoffman, was one of the first people to try to estimate the amount of plastic entering the Great Lakes. It was 22 million pounds of plastic entering per year. And this is based on estimates based on things like population density and plastic use and escape factors, how much is going to actually leak into the environment. So we wanted to back up those numbers with some data. And we used traps to do that. So traps are these storm drain inserts. They're retrofitted into existing storm drains, and they capture all of the debris that's entering the storm drain. Because it was a research project, we wanted to understand differences between urban and suburban areas, and then also residential and commercial areas. So we installed 9 traps. They were paired, residential and commercial, and then in the city of Rochester and in the suburb of Brighton. We sampled these monthly from 2022 to 2024. I'm acknowledging my former master's student, Pedrino, who was the person that did a lot of this work. It's pretty tedious and dirty work. And she did an amazing job with it. And the project was supported by NOAA's Marine Debris Program. For those not familiar with traps, this is just a real quick overview because I know we're going to hear a lot about traps. But they go in the storm drain, and when we go out, we'll kind of clean up the surface of the grate, remove anything that wouldn't have passed through it that gets either sent to the trash or recycled when we can, pull out the trap. The ones we're using have a 5mm mesh. And then we bring all of that debris back to the lab. In the lab, we dry it, we sieve it because smaller things do get captured once it becomes kind of full or lined with leaves. Split it into organic and anthropogenic fractions, sort of by materials, plastic, metal, glass, by size, and then categorize everything by use. And then some of the materials we were identifying to polymer using IR. And so this is Paige and someone who's now a technician on our project, Jake Herrick, in the lab, and you can see we have lots and lots of samples. This was an example of what we found in one trap, one storm drain, 1 2-week period. And in Rochester, we've got 30,000 storm drains. So this just gives an idea of the magnitude of the problem. This particular site is also on a separate sewer, so everything from this location goes straight out to the Genesee River. But it's one of the things that I think those of us who do this kind of work are often surprised about is how recognizable the debris is. We've got bottle caps, we've got cigarette butts and other smoking or tobacco debris, wrappers from products that we recognize. We have mustard packets and Mott's, those little candies, cigarette lighters. We also end up with lots of syringes and drug-related paraphernalia. But a lot of it is recognizable. Then when we wanted to get at the data, so this is the mass of the debris that entered each drain over the full 2-year period. So one drain is almost 4,000 grams or 4 kilograms entering that drain. We had a lot of rocks. Rocks are heavy, so they make up a big proportion at some sites of things like gravel, pieces of cement, landscaping rocks. But after that, the plastic is by far the biggest component of what we're finding, mostly packaging and single-use products, but cigarette butts at some sites are a really large proportion. So as a result, cellulose acetate, polypropylene, and polyethylene are the most common plastics. And we can use the type of plastic to get a little bit at what the risk downstream is, knowing the toxicity or fate of those different materials. And Jay took all of this data and used it to develop a first pass at a model to scale up how much debris may actually be entering the storm system. And he estimated that it's 2 kilograms per day. About a third of that is going directly to our MS4 drains, so straight out to the environment, with the rest going to treatment plants. But one of the things we really noticed with this is how heterogeneous it is. Even locations that are very, very close together can have a very big difference in the quantity of debris and then also what the debris is comprised of. So what we learned from this project is that idea that the debris input and composition are really spatially variable. And so then thinking forward that the solutions that we come up with need to be equally hyperlocal. We also learned that community members were really interested in what's in there. And that was important for thinking through the educational piece. And then also that understanding what it's made of allows for the development of solutions. We also, from community level surveys, knew that about 67% of the people in the city don't know where the stormwater goes. So there's a really big gap between the urban environment and the urban environments are a watershed and the fact that we're right on the lake. We also are working with a city that has a priority for getting kids outside. They have a Children's Outdoor Bill of Rights with a motto of no child left inside. But they're getting outside to a fairly degraded environment in the city. But the goal is to get kids to learn how to take care of the planet, to learn to swim, play in clean rivers and lakes. And so we were incorporating that into some of our programming. And that all went into the development of the Cascade program, which is supported by the National Sea Grant Office, Marine Debris Programs Community Action Coalition. And we have 2 grants currently from that, a phase 1 in Rochester and then phase 2, which expanded to Buffalo and Syracuse, with a huge number of partners across sectors, including other universities, New York Sea Grant, our municipalities, informal education, and then formal education. The objectives of this are to use hyperlocal engagement of the community to increase understanding about the stormwater debris problem, and then use data with a community science approach to promote action at the municipal level and also to create transferable materials. So we installed another 14 lithotraps in Rochester with a site selection criteria of being at an educational location. So we've got 3 at city-run recreation centers. These are in minority dominant and poverty areas, at 2 elementary schools, and then also at our zoo and our science museum. When we expanded to Rochester, we moved more to high schools, and then also on the University at Buffalo's campus. And then in Syracuse, they're on Syracuse University's campus and also at their science museum. Katie Sass, who's our environmental education specialist at RIT, worked with us in developing a modular 12-week curriculum that we keep adapting as we're moving into different kinds of locations. But she collaborated, especially with other youth empowerment specialists and environmental educators, to work on a community science model where the youth participate in the debris collection, sorting, counting, and analysis. They use data and storytelling skills to develop marketing and branding plans and then develop action planning for their neighborhoods. I'm going to walk through the curriculum really quickly. The first step is this idea of scientific exploration. So understanding plastic pollution and then actually going out and sampling the litter traps. The youth go out with Sea Grant and RIT staff and students and collect the data. There are also exercises about what a water treatment plant and the water cycle, understanding watersheds, and then understanding the different characteristics of plastic, particularly density, from a material science perspective. With the data collection part, the youth participate in pretty much every step of the process from sampling. They process the sample, they sort it, they categorize it, and then they analyze the data. We do bring the sample back to our lab before the youth get at it. So they help with the collection, we take it, we dry it, and then we do a preliminary sort to remove any dangerous objects like needles before it goes back to the youth. Then the students are also doing data analysis. They're looking at where they are on maps, looking at what type of location they're in, what type of businesses or other sources of debris may be there. They also get to do art projects to develop, to make, these are sand sculptures where they are taking the debris and making it into art pieces, and then they do a storytelling exercise. I wanted to highlight a couple of these stories. So they use art and then their own storytelling skills to make stories about the debris, about where it came from, and what happened to it, how did it get into the environment. Some of these are very fantastical, with packing peanuts that fly around the world. Some of them are just that Slim Jim wrapper that came out of Jim's pocket and ended up in the litter trap. But it was really interesting to see the types of debris that the youth pick up on and decide to write stories about. Everything from cigarette butts to fake fingernails that you find in the storm drain. And often it was the youth picked up on kind of either something they recognized or something really unique like a fingernail. So this was a really important part of the project in order to develop our understanding of what youth will respond to. We also work with a branding and marketing specialist who owns his own firm, but also has a component of his work both focused on youth empowerment in urban areas. He helps with the branding and helping students think about their audience and what is their message, what do they want to invoke in terms of behavior change. And then at the end, they have a community showcase of their science and also of all of the branding materials that they created. At our partner organizations in Rochester, this is the Seneca Park Zoo and then the Rochester Museum and Science Center. We were plugging into existing programming. Both the Urban Ecologist program and our Career Ladder programs involve high school students, so getting them directly involved in delivering the programming. At the zoo, they also are doing cleanups and enhancing their exhibits. At the museum, these are focused into the wonders of water and green infrastructure exhibits, and also the Science on a Sphere, which is a NOAA exhibit. When we expanded to Buffalo and Syracuse, we were moving into different environments with different goals. So some at Buffalo, these are pushed into high school programming. So the curriculum got adapted by Nate Dragg, who works for New York Sea Grant in Buffalo, for older students, and we incorporated more of a focus on career exploration. In Syracuse, this is engaging with college students, and parts of it are being incorporated into their sustainable materials management stewardship plans. And then we're also working on adapting some of the materials and especially the data sets. Some is for undergraduate and graduate classroom activities. And then Katie is working on creating data sets that fit the new science standards on sense making. So allowing the students to use the data to create sense around the problem. I also just wanted to really quickly mention that we're also using the model to develop a targeted interception program where we will be expanding to install another 50 litter traps in the city at high input areas. So the first step of this is to we've installed 19 more litter traps to try to expand coverage so we can build a better model. And then we will be putting in the additional 30 litter traps over the next year. This is a partnership with the county, and I think stressing the importance of having really great municipal partners is an incredibly important part of this. The county will be taking over the monitoring and maintenance of all of our litter traps after our projects end. So that's an important part of this. So just thank you to our funding sources, to lots and lots of people at RIT and then also in the community who have been really important in this. And my last slide is just, I wanted to again highlight the importance of partnerships and that this is a cleanup that we do. We're working on ways to adapt the curriculum for use with cleanups for people that don't have access to litter traps. And that we do these cleanups with the zoo. The zoo provides the bags, which are these giraffe feed bags, which is always a really nice way of kind of reusing something that would otherwise get thrown away. So with that, I will say thank you, and I can answer any questions.
Thank you, Christy. That was so interesting. And 50 litter traps in the next 3 years is a huge number, so that's very impressive.
I know. I think we're hoping it's going to go okay.
I'm sure it will. Okay, so yeah, we have a couple of minutes in case anybody has any questions for Christy. So you can either raise your hand or type it in the chat. Tanya, please go ahead.
Hi, Christy. Thank you so much. That was a great presentation. You mentioned toward the end that partnering with the county was instrumental and the fact that they're taking on maintenance afterwards incredible. I was wondering if you could speak more to that. Like, was that like an easy like transition or was there pushback or like how were you able to get them to buy in so easily to take on more work essentially?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, and I think really important, and something we talk about a lot as we're, one of our goals, especially with this interception project, is a transferable program that other municipalities would be willing to take on. And I feel like we were really lucky in some ways that we have a county Department of Environmental Services and the county itself that's really invested in this type of project, and that at the state level, stormwater permits require education components. And a lot of it is also that, I've partnered with the county on other projects for years. And I think that those relationships are a really important part of it, and building the trust and the collaboration over time is important. We are working on a pilot program with a nearby municipality where they want to install 2 litter traps, and we're using that as a pilot for how another community could take this on. And so I imagine we'll have some bumps as we go, but we're trying to develop a manual on the best practices and what you would need to be able to do that.
Thanks, Christy. I think Chelsea has a question for you now.
I do. Hi, Christy. My question's actually kind of similar. And it's something we think a lot about here in Toronto is like we are kind of behaving like a nonprofit that just is keeps trying to get external funding to keep our project going. But do you know, like in the long run, like right now you'll have NOAA funding. If funding runs out, what do you think the sustainability of the project will be? Like, do you think at some point city or somebody would have the motivation to take it on and keep this going? Like, what do we think the future of trash trapping programs are if we don't have these grants and foundations to keep us afloat?
Yeah, I know that's a really good question, and that's one of the things that with the fluctuations in funding in the U.S. And priorities it's a challenge, and it's the things that keep you up at night. I think one of the things when we went into our interception project, which is the 50 traps, was having the commitment from the county that they would take them over, because we didn't want to invest all this effort into developing the model and putting the traps in and collecting all that data to have it end at the end of the grant. So I think having that buy-in and creating a system that you show that the risk is low and the benefits are high is important. And that they have to go in the right places so that there's less risk. You're not worried about flooding, that sampling is easy, that they're going in a place where there's a good bang for your buck, because it's not an easy thing, and they're in places where they're safe. We had a lot of conversations about, okay, with this network that we want to put in, making sure that they're kind of located near each other, that it's not like one trap here and then you drive 2 miles and then you drive 2 miles, so that it's a cluster in a high priority area that makes it simpler, so that you're thinking about the logistics of maintenance, long-term maintenance, before you even start. And I think incorporating all of that is important. And then I think it's also, what is the motivation for doing it in the first place? Is it capturing debris, or is it education? That you want it to be in a high visibility place, where a community group or an educational institution could take it on, and that motivation hopefully continues. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, you did. It's just amazing that you have 50, and that's really cool. The county has we have 10, and the city's like, oh, it's a pilot. It'll forever be called a pilot. So that's really
cool. We don't have them yet. I think right now we have about 25, but
yeah,
fingers crossed.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Chelsea, for that question. Okay, I think we might move on just in the interest of time, and we'll go on to our next speaker. But I can see there is a question from Catherine in the chat. So, Christy, feel free to respond in the chat as well if you want to. Okay, thank you. So our next speaker is Monica Wilson. Dr. Wilson is the Coastal Debris Project Coordinator for Operation TRAP. She oversees all aspects of the project, which focuses on prevention, removal, and research of common debris entering Florida's Gulf Coast waterways. She coordinates the deployment, maintenance, and the data collection of the litter catchment devices, and she's going to talk to us about that today. So go ahead, Monica, whenever you're ready.
Thank you for that introduction. Let me just make sure. All right, do you all see my screen?
Yeah, looks great.
Okay, well, great. Thank you so much for that introduction. So as of today's topic, the webinar is to discuss how we use trash traps to connect with our communities. So webinars are one way we do that. I'm going to follow in Christy's footsteps and talk a little bit, brief description about about TRAP and share some data, and then speak a little bit about our community engagement. So again, my name is Monica Wilson. I'm the project coordinator for Operation TRAP. The co-PIs on the project are Dr. Savannah Berry and Dr. Laura Reynolds. This project is supported by NOAA's Marine Debris Program. So just a quick background about our project. We collaborate, again, it's UF-IFAS with the Nature Coast Biological Station, UF's Soil, Water, and Ecosystem Sciences, Florida Sea Grant, and the NOAA Marine Debris Program. are what is used to interceptor technology to capture litter at the source and prevent it from entering Florida's aquatic preserves. That is exactly what TRAP stands for, trash reduction for aquatic preserves. And where we do this is, like I mentioned, Florida's aquatic preserves in Pasco and Levy counties, and the project funding is from July 2023 through June of 2027. So just a little bit of background about the Florida Aquatic Preserves. The Florida Department of Environmental Protection's Aquatic Preserve Program is a state-managed program that focuses on Florida's living waters and aims to preserve submerged resources for the enjoyment of future generations. There are 42 aquatic preserves in Florida, and they all experience some sort of marine debris influence. The 3 aquatic preserves located on this map within the Big Bend Nature Coast are Big Bend seagrasses, St. Martin's, and the Nature Coast. They span 8 counties and encompass roughly 1 million acres of continuous state-managed submerged resources. And all 3 preserves in this region have specific objectives focused on marine debris reduction. And these areas accumulate marine debris primarily as results of storms and tourism impacts. And with this grant, we address single-use materials that enter the aquatic preserve waterways through drainage systems and boat access points. And this grant enables partnerships with coastal municipalities to implement proven trash interceptor technologies needed to stem the flow of debris into Florida aquatic preserves. And the project goal is to install anywhere between 38 to 63 devices during a 3-year period. And as of today, we have installed a total, I think, of 45. However, we have different types of devices, but I'll go into that a little bit more. So just a quick, the goals of TRAP, again, are to install technologies to capture litter, reduce the amount of litter going into the aquatic preserves, collect data on the types and quantity of debris that we're collecting, engage with the community and foster changes, produce a municipality toolkit, similar to what Christy was talking about, to encourage governments to implement similar approaches in their communities, and then obviously to develop stewards of Florida's sensitive coastal resources and encourage lifestyle changes. So just a quick slide on the 3 types of traps that we use. Excuse me, devices. We have monofilament tubes, we have boom catchment devices, and then storm drain traps. And so I'm going to just do a quick snapshot of where we have our traps. In Pasco County, we have all 3 types of interceptor devices. And in this map, you can see those. In the light blue is where we have our boom catchment devices. 3 out of the 4 boom catchment devices lead directly into what is Warner Boyce Salt Springs State Park. So we are keeping trash out of that state park, which is nice. The blue teardrops are where our litter traps are. In Pasco County, we use the EnviroPod litter trap. We have 19 of those. And then the neon green are where our monofilament tubes are located within Pasco County. And here is just a graph of what we've captured in Pasco County from all 19 traps. As you can see, plastic pieces is number 1 in Pasco County for us. Cigarette butts is number 3. But in total, as of today, we've captured over almost 8,000 large pieces of debris in our Pasco County storm drain traps. Second location is Cedar Key, which is where I am today. We have 10 storm drain traps in Cedar Key. They are shown here in the red, yellow, and the blue, and then 2 monofilament tubes as well. Cedar Key is actually being used as a test site. We have 3 different types of storm drain traps. The colors on the map that you see here correspond to the different types of traps. We are basically, this allows us to compare and contrast the traps, compare them as far as installation, maintenance, debris capture, things of that nature. So if you see, we have basically 3 regions within Cedar Key where they each have, they're all on the same corner, but each corner has a different trap. So we can compare and contrast each trap and then hopefully write up about it, in that municipality toolkit when towards the end of the project when we get that developed. As for Cedar Key, here's a snapshot of what we've captured in Cedar Key. Cigarette butts by far takes the #1 spot in Cedar Key. Interesting to see, what the difference is between the two locations. As Christy mentioned, Cedar Key, we have all our, depending on where the traps are, can make a big difference. As you saw by the two maps, Cedar Key is a small town. All the storm drain traps are located in with a few blocks of each other. Pasco County is a much larger county, so our storm drain traps are located all throughout the county. So we do have to drive from site to site. There are a few locations where there's 2 storm drain traps right next to each other, but not very many. And so we think that makes a bit of a difference as far as the types of trash we're capturing because of where they're located. And as of to date, for Cedar Key, we've captured about 7,200 pieces of large debris in our storm drain traps. Another type of device that I spoke about are our boom catchment devices. We have 4 in Pasco County. And I'm going to go a little briefly over that data as well, just so you can see what we've captured. So for the the brand we use is Water Goats, and we use the EPA's Escape Trash Assessment Protocol to gather that data and sift through it. And here's just a brief glimpse of what we've captured in the Water Goats since installation of them back in 2024. As you can see here, plastics is our #1 type of debris that we capture. And within that category, styrofoam pieces take the highest spot. We capture lots of styrofoam pieces in our devices. Obviously they float, and so they are easily captured by our boom catchment devices. So now I'll just move into a little bit of our engagement opportunities. These are just a few things that we use to educate folks. On our left is our signs that we have at all of our boom catchment devices that shows exactly what it is and gives them a little bit of education on how water goes into our storm drains and how it ends up in our waterways. And then in the middle there, we have some of our swag, non-plastic, that we like to give out at our outreach events and to volunteers, just so they have a little bit of Operation Trap. All the products have our website on there, so folks can go directly to our website to see the data and learn more about our project. And then the picture on the right is actually our storm drain badges. These were all any storm drain that has a trap in it. This badge is installed near it or by it, again, with our website. So when people come by, we always let them know that if they see a storm drain that has this badge, that means there's a trap in it and it's collecting trash and keeping it out of our waterways. And a lot of people are kind of excited. They said, and they'll let us know, oh yeah, we saw one back there, or I saw one last week. So it seems like they're doing a pretty good job at informing folks. But as far as most of our engagement opportunities, we host booths at events like the Nature Coast Biological Station's open house, St. Petersburg Science Festival. As you can see from our booths, we have a trifold that has a lot of our information from our project, exactly what it is and what we're doing. We put out examples of the storm drain traps that we use. We also sometimes have an example of the boom catchment device that we use so people can see it. We have activities for the kids. In the one picture on the right, you can see that we're giving out the NOAA Marine Debris Program's calendar. Folks loved it. And we also utilized their activity sheets, put them on the booth table so kids can take them and do the activities to learn more about marine debris. But we also have an activity, this or that activity, and it's basically a magnetic whiteboard that shows we place items that are made out of plastic on it, and then we ask the kids to find the non-plastic option and match up to the plastic option. Some of these things kids are familiar with, such as using a reusable water bottle instead of plastic bottles, or the grocery bags. Instead of using plastic bags, use your reusable grocery bags. And some are a little trickier, and we try to utilize them to hopefully. The trickier ones are usually, help get the kids' minds thinking a little bit outwards towards other objects and products that they could use, like bar shampoo, that comes in a cardboard box instead of in a plastic bottle. So it's a good activity for them to know of the things that they're doing correctly currently, and then how they can also change behaviors to help the problem in the future. Other ways we engage. On the left is our trap flyer. So usually when we are out collecting or cleaning out storm drain traps, people will stop by and ask us what we are doing and why we are doing it. So we explain the project to them. We have these flyers available at all of our cleanouts, and if they are interested, or usually we ask if they would like a flyer for more information. If they do, we hand it out to them, so they have, again, access to our website and access to what we do and our goals of our project. On the right is a flyer that we also have usually at our tabling events, or that I also email out to our volunteers. We have adoption programs. We try to recruit folks to adopt a water goat, where will train the folks who want to adopt it, or the group who wants to adopt it. We will train them on how to collect the data. We will supply all the supplies that is necessary for the data. We will give them a tote that has everything for the clean out, from bags to well, actually I have a picture of that. Here we go. Next slide. So these are pictures of a group that was adopting one of our water goats. It was the scuba knots. One of the students needed a master knot project, and she took it over. So I met with her twice, and we trained her on how to collect the trash out of the water goat and how to collect data from the trash that they collected. And she would schedule it once a month, bring out some folks and collect the data. And we would hand her, we handed her the tote. In the picture on the right shows you exactly what's in the tote, from volunteer vests to nets to tarps to a binder that has release forms and the worksheets that are necessary, and scales and everything that they would need to conduct the clean out. And again, she would schedule it once a month whenever they were available and go clean it out, and then hand me the data and take pictures, and they would take it over on their own. Another outreach engagement opportunity, I guess you could say, one of our undergraduates built a training course for us. So she came out with me and we took pictures and videos, and we now have a training course that we share with our Canvas training course that we share with our volunteers. Anybody that signs up to volunteer, we will send them over to this. It gives them an idea of what to expect when they are going to be at the clean out. Gives them an idea exactly how it's going to occur, the steps that it takes to conduct the clean out, and just to prepare them for the expectations. So that's been very useful. We've captured a lot of people, and sometimes students are also just, students will take them. So anybody that actually takes the course, I will add them to our volunteer list, and they will start getting our emails of future cleanouts. But as far as future cleanouts, also another part of engagement is our website. And so our Operation Trap website, it has everything from our project to who we are to data. But one thing I want to talk about is it has this how to volunteer, basically, or how to get involved. And that will take them to this page where, again, they can fill out the Yes, I Want to Volunteer, which is a Google form that lets us know their names and emails, that goes directly to us when it's filled out. The link to the training is also there. And they can, again, go and get trained even before they sign up. But even on that page is also our calendar of events, which will lead them to every single registration page that they need to get if they would like to register and help with the clean out. So just for a quick overall totals from our project as of today, our water goats have captured over 3,000 pounds of trash. Storm drain traps total between Cedar Key and Pasco County, we've captured 15,000 pieces of large debris. Our monofilament tubes have captured over 20 pounds of fishing-related debris. We've had over 238 volunteers and over 1,200 public encounters at our outreach events also. And then the statistics there are from our TRAP website of the number of users and the page views that we've received since the project And on that, I think that's my last slide. Thank you guys for listening. And I guess I will take any questions.
Thank you, Monica. That was great. There were so many ideas in there that I'm sure people will take on board and use for their own program. So thank you. Okay, so yeah, we do have a few minutes for questions. So if anybody has questions, same as before, you can raise your hand or you can just type them in the chat as well. I'll give everyone a few seconds to think.
I will mention, sorry, I didn't go too much into our collaborations, but we have collaborated with the counties, just similar as Christy has, have similar issues or non-issues with them. But yes, her and her project were instrumental in helping us form our project. So we do have quite a few different collaborations in hopes that the county will also take over some of these devices when the project is over.
Nice, that's great. Okay, we do have a question in the chat actually from Carla, and she's asking about the monofilament tubes and how they work.
So they're doing really pretty well. I didn't show the graph. I wish I did. But if you looked at the picture, I don't know what the traditional monofilament tubes have a 6-inch opening at the top. I went through the picture quite quickly, but our tubes have been modified where we've actually managed to only make I think it's a 2-inch by 2-inch hole at the top of the monofilament tube. And so some of in some of the areas we have both type of monofilament tubes, and we've noticed like at one park we have 4 tubes. 2 of them are the modified ones and 2 of them are the traditional monofilament tubes. We've noticed that the new modified tubes are eliminating a lot more trash than the ones that have the large 6-inch opening. So that's a plus. It's making it because people, even though there's trash cans next to the monofilament tubes, they will put trash down the tubes, and we have captured anywhere from bottles and water bottles and aluminum cans in the monofilament tubes. But we are happy to say that the modified tubes are keeping trash out of the actual tubes and more fishing gear in them. So they're working pretty well. But yeah, we clean those. I didn't mention this, but we do our clean outs once a month as well. And since when we first took them over, some of them hadn't been cleaned out in months, so they were very full. But the amount of trash that we are finding in them on a month-to-month basis has definitely lowered, which is nice.
That's great. Thank you. And Dave has a quick question, and then I think we'll move on. So Dave's asking, are all your Operation Trap educational materials open source? Can they find them online?
Yes, you can find everything online. The training courses, you can get to it online. Our flyers, actually, I don't think the flyers are online, but I'm happy to share with anybody. But yes, as far as the activity for the kids, it's not online, but I'm happy it's super easy to make. It's not a difficult project to to implement. So, but I'm happy to, if there's something you'd like and it's not on our website, please just go ahead and contact me. I can put my email
Thanks very much.
in the chat, and you guys can contact me and let me know.
Thank you, Monica. That's great. Okay, thanks again for some good questions, everyone. Okay, so I will move on to our next presenter. So our next presenter is Kennedy Bucci. So she's a postdoctoral fellow at Lakehead University and the Litter-Free Lakes coordinator at EcoSuperior. And Kennedy's research focuses on quantifying the sources, pathways, and fate of microplastics in an urban setting. Aside from thinking about plastic pollution, Kennedy has many hobbies, including ice fishing, sewing, and reading. I love that little insight. So thanks, Kennedy. And whenever you're ready, please go ahead.
Thanks, Hannah. Okay, let's do that. Yeah, I always like to share my current hobbies because I have more than just science going on in my brain. Okay, so today I'm happy to be talking about our Litter-Free Lakes programs. I've titled this Collecting Litter and Data in Thunder Bay's Storm Drains. Okay, So this project is a collaboration between EcoSuperior Environmental Programs, which is an environmental nonprofit in Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada, and Lakehead University and the City of Thunder Bay. And in case you're not familiar with where we are in Thunder Bay, I've just included a map here. There's the Great Lakes system, Toronto's over here, and Thunder Bay is way up here on the north shore of Lake Superior. We're about a 2-hour flight from Toronto or an 18-hour drive, depending on which you prefer. The objectives of our project are, first of all, to divert litter from ending up in Lake Superior, to better understand where pollution is in our city, to support EcoSuperior's education and programming, and finally, to inform better waste management practices in Thunder Bay. And there's the team on the left of the screen there, the EcoSuperior team on top. There's our City of Thunder Bay partners, and I didn't include anyone from the Lakehead University C Lab, but they're there as well. Okay, so to give you some context about EcoSuperior, we are an environmental nonprofit in Thunder Bay. We've been serving the community since 1995. We have a variety of program areas that we provide education and services on, which include active transportation, water, land connections, waste, home energy, and the Litter-Free Lakes program. We provide education in community workshops as well as going into classrooms in Thunder Bay on all of these topics. And my kind of portfolio at EcoSuperior is the Litter-Free Lakes program area. And what that entails is basically preventing litter from ending up in Lake Superior. So I'm currently managing 2 programs through EcoSuperior's Litter-Free Lakes program, which are the storm drain filtration and washing machine filtration. If you're interested in the washing machine filtration project, I actually have another webinar coming up on, I think it's March 23rd, that talks about that project. It's a citizen science project where we're quantifying microplastics in our laundry at home. If you're interested in that, feel free to either reach out or find me on find EcoSuperior on Instagram, and you can find more details for that there. But today I'm going to be talking about our storm drain filtration projects. And I don't have to go into this too much because we already heard a lot about litter traps from Christy and Monica, which is great, saves me some time. But just to show you that we are using, this is the style of storm drain of litter trap that we're using, and they're fitted with the regular 5mm mesh filter bags at the moment. And there's me and Emily doing some heavy lifting. Okay, so we installed 16 litter traps in Thunder Bay in 2024. And then in 2025, we actually added 10 more. So we have 26 total litter traps. And we installed them, distributing them evenly across 4 different land use types, with 5 storm drains in each land use type. So there they are on the map. The green ones are the community zones. So that's in parks and public spaces in Thunder Bay. The purple ones are our urban low-rise zone. So that represents a residential community with kind of small houses rather than like bigger apartment style houses. And then our institutional zone, which is at Lakehead University. In 2025, when we got more litter traps, we installed some more in the light industrial zone. I don't have data to share on those because we installed them towards the end of our 2025 season, so it doesn't quite match up with the rest of the land use types, but that will be something to look forward to in future presentations. And then we also have some that are used for education. Okay, so we follow the International Trash Trap Network's harmonized data collection protocol, which is their detailed protocol. So we do we take it all out of the trap, we sort through and quantify and characterize all the pollution that we find. In 2024, we did this sorting and characterizing in the field on the side of the road, basically. In 2025, when we added more storm drains, we decided to bag all of the trash and then bring it back to the lab and sort it there. That helps us, first of all, with the amount of time that we spend collecting all of the trash and organizing it, and gives us a bit more time to do the organization and quantification properly. What this means though is that in 2024 we probably weren't being quite as careful as we are now in 2025 and going forward in quantifying the pollution. So that's just a caveat to our methods, the way we've chosen to do things. And going forward, we're going to continue doing it in the lab because it's a lot easier. Okay. So this shows how much how much litter we've diverted in 2024 and 2025, and some examples on the right-hand side of a typical trash trap haul in one storm drain, which we monitor monthly. And you'll see, interestingly, that in 2024 and 2025, we collected almost the exact same amount of litter in our community storm drains. I don't know. I don't know how to explain that other than it was a fluke, I guess. In our residential zone, we found that there was quite a bit more litter in 2025 than there was in 2024. As other presenters have mentioned, our storm drains are highly sensitive to like what's going on in the direct area surrounding them. So I think a lot of this variation on this level is because different activities that are going on day to day might impact what's going down the drain. So for example, in 2025, on one of our residential zone litter traps, we found tons and tons and tons of small rope fragments it was obvious that they all came from the same rope, but because they were all separated in the trap, we counted them individually. So we had like 100+ rope fragments in that one litter trap in that 1 month. But it was obvious to us that it came from the same kind of activity that was happening somewhere in the catchment area. So that's just something interesting to know, is that, yeah, it's very sensitive to what's going on around it. And in the institutional zones, we also have been finding that because they're installed on campus at Lakehead, and because foot traffic at Lakehead is considerably decreased in the summer months, because most students go back home or aren't on campus at least, that we aren't finding as much litter in the summer months compared to like September, October. And then of course, after October, we're not able to monitor them again until the next May because of Thunder Bay's winter. Okay. The types of litter that we're finding in our traps are, again, very similar to what other people have seen, Christy, Monica, and other people doing this type of work. A lot of the contents of the storm drains are smoking related, so that could be cigarette butts, e-cigarettes, tobacco packaging, anything like that is all kind of lumped together here under smoking. In some storm drains, there's 100 cigarette butts in a single month. So it's really, it's a really big issue. Just how much cigarette butts go down the storm drains. But again, that's not unique to Thunder Bay. That's across the board. Other common types are the plastic fragments and films. Because of the nature of the storm drains, we're mostly finding fragments of stuff, not the item itself. And again, food packaging, that kind of stuff, foam pieces became a bigger thing in 2025 than they were in 2024. But I suspect that's because of the change in our methods, not because of some difference of something that's happening in Thunder Bay. And finally, I just wanted to show the average number of cigarette butts that go down a drain per month, one single storm drain per month. So on average, we're finding that around 1 in our urban low-rise zones to almost 25 cigarette butts go down a single storm drain in a single month in Thunder Bay. And so I put on the side just this little thought experiment that I've been thinking about, which is that if around 1 to 25 cigarette butts go down a drain in a month, that means that in a season, so our 6-month ice-free season, we have around 6 to 150 cigarette butts going down a drain in a year. And in the city of Thunder Bay, we have 14,000 storm drains. So I didn't do this math. You can do it yourself if you really want to. But that's a lot of cigarette butts that are potentially going down the drain and into Lake Superior in our city. And a lot of that is happening in our city parks. So as I mentioned, the community zones are where people kind of go to enjoy nature. Some of the places are by parking lots where people sit in their cars and eat their lunch, or have a smoke break or something like that. So we're finding that this is, yeah, a major issue in our city parks in Thunder Bay. Okay. So I'm moving now on to kind of how EcoSuperior uses this information to engage with the community. And first of all, I wanted to talk about informing waste management in Thunder Bay. So obviously the results of our project highlight the need for location-specific waste management in city parks and public areas. And so in 2025, we worked with the City of Thunder Bay Parks Department to install 3 new ashtrays at Hillcrest Park, which was our most polluted site. You can see the park here. It's a really beautiful spot where a lot of people park their cars, and you can kind of see over Lake Superior with the sleeping giant in the background. So it's a really nice spot. And so we've attached these ashtrays onto the sides of the existing waste management infrastructure, so that people have an alternative to putting their cigarette butts on the ground. We hope to continue to expand this program by installing more of these ashtrays in other city parks around Thunder Bay. Hillcrest is just one of many of the city parks that we have. And we also hope to see that we would install more of the litter traps in other city parks as well. So we have, like I said, many city parks in Thunder Bay, and although we don't have data for each city park, we know that this is likely an issue across the board. The main barriers to getting these devices installed are, I've termed them cooperation, personnel, and safety concerns. And so basically, when we're working with the city, we've run into some issues with folks at the city being concerned that things other than cigarette butts would be put into the cigarette butt receptacles that would make it unsafe for people to empty them out. And so we're currently navigating this with the City of Thunder Bay and hoping to, I don't know, continue working on this issue together. Some other programs that EcoSuperior offers that fall into this kind of education piece around cigarette butts is we've already been collecting cigarette butts since 2014, but knowing how much cigarette butts go down the drain in Thunder Bay just reinforces our efforts to continue offering this service. So we have a very lovely cigarette butt receptacle out back of our building where folks can drop off their cigarette butts, and lots do. There's a lot of cigarette butts that we collect from the community. I've just shown a quick graph here of the yearly estimated cigarette butts that we collect and recycle. So we're averaging around like 500,000 cigarette butts a year, which is amazing. And I don't know what happened in 2019. Someone smoked up the cigarette butts, I guess, in 2019 and dropped them all off at EcoSuperior, which is great. And we also work with local businesses to install more of these ashtrays outside in like high smoking areas, so like outside of bars and workplaces and stuff. And we encourage people who install the ashtrays to then also collect and drop off their cigarette butts at EcoSuperior. Okay, the information that we collect through the litter traps also helps to support our community and classroom education programs. So on the leftmost picture here is just a photo of one of our EDs at EcoSuperior, Erin, using the watershed model to help talk to children about how pollution moves through a watershed, and having examples of things that have actually gone through our city storm drains, like candy bar wrappers that the kids can associate with their own habits, really helps to reinforce this idea of whatever ends up on our city streets might eventually end up in Lake Superior. And so that's been a really good visual to have to bring to these community or these classroom education workshops. We also do, so the rightmost picture here is a photo of one of the booths that we've done. So similar to Monica, we bring our litter trap out to community events and the samples that we collect from the litter traps, and just talk to people about what our litter traps are and what types of things we collect. And so again, having the samples present at the booth really helps to connect even to children and even to adults about what we're finding and how that relates to their own habits in life. And then finally, in the middle photo here, EcoSuperior has a really, really extensive program in Thunder Bay, across Thunder Bay, of doing litter collection events. And we've also kind of tried to implement this idea of doing waste audits at our events. And so this is from last summer in 2025. We did a big cleanup of one of the city parks and quantified everything that we found. And unsurprisingly, it was a lot of cigarette butts, but also a lot of fishing related waste. And so after watching the previous presentation, I was really inspired by Monica's monofilament tubes. So I'm definitely going to look into that and see if we can get some of those installed in our city parks as well. And then I think this is the last program that I wanted to talk about, but EcoSuperior also has an Adopt a Storm Drain program. And so in this map here, you can see a lot of the storm drains across Thunder Bay. It's not all of them, but it's a lot of them. And the ones in yellow here are the ones that have been adopted. And so, people can sign up to adopt a storm drain, which basically just means that they're responsible for clearing the leaf debris and litter as well off the top of the storm drain so that it can flow to, increase or like help with the water quality in the storm drains and what's going into Lake Superior. In 2024, I think it was, and also in 2025, we had a really, really big uptake of the Adopt a Storm Drain program, and people have decided to name their storm drains really funny things. So this one is Sir Drains a Lot. And so that's just another fun part of the community engagement piece of this service or program. Okay, and so last but not least, I just wanted to talk about where this program is going in the future. So in 2026, I'm going to continue to conduct intensive monitoring of the litter traps. And one thing that I'm really looking forward to is installing 200 micron mesh liners in the storm drains. So previously, we've only been able to capture litter above 5 millimeters. But in 2026, we're going to workshop 200 microns and above. And so that'll be really interesting next year. And then this data that I'm collecting from the litter traps I'll be using to build a depositional model of plastic pollution inputs into Lake Superior from Thunder Bay. So it's very similar to what Christy was talking about. So I'm looking forward to talking to her more about that. And then we're also working with another nonprofit called Let's Talk Science to develop a microplastic scientist for a day kit for classroom visits. And so this would be similar to when I do the quantification of the storm drains myself, but we'll build a kit for students to do a very similar project. So they're looking through the contents of a storm drain and pulling out what's plastic and sorting them into different categories. And then finally, we received funding from the Rotary Club, to install more litter traps. So we're looking forward to working with the city to install some more litter traps. Okay, that's it for my presentation. Thank you all for listening. Thank you to my funders, all that. All right, and I'm looking forward to answering any questions.
Thank you, Kennedy. Again, lots of great ideas in there. But this on the cigarette butt thing, it's the top item that we found across the network for the last 4 years, and it's the top item that seems to be found as well in shoreline cleanups. Is a huge thing. So it's interesting. I liked your perspective of thinking about extrapolating your data and thinking about how many cigarette butts. I couldn't do it in my head.
I know. I just didn't want to do the math. I don't think you want to know.
I'm sure someone will. So we are a little bit tight on time, but maybe if we have time for like one or two questions just before we move on. Please feel free to ask Kennedy anything you're thinking. We have a question from Dave, which is, has anyone approached the cigarette industry regarding extended producer responsibility? Kennedy, have you had any experience of that from your work?
I personally don't know anyone in the cigarette industry, so I would love to email someone, but I don't have those emails. But in seriousness, I do think that's a really good idea. I mean, cigarette packaging already has warning labels for human health. Why not include environmental health and extended producer responsibility is also a great idea. I am all for it. I'm all for that idea. If we can work on getting that going, you can sign me up.
Yeah. Sorry, I know that was a broad question. I just targeted it at you, Kennedy, so no pressure. Okay. As we are running a little bit over, and I still want to make sure we have time for panel discussion, I'll move on. But if anyone has any more questions, you can always write them in the chat. So this is our last presentation for the day, and we have Eric. So Eric Bradford is an operations and supply chain professional. He has 25 years of experience in project management, and he spent the last 15 years working for WNC-based environmental nonprofit Asheville GreenWorks, focusing his efforts on water quality and urban forestry issues. So Eric, whenever you're ready, you can share your slides and go ahead.
All right, thank you, Hannah. I appreciate that. And thank you, everyone. Again, my name is Eric Bradford, and I am with Asheville GreenWorks. We're based in Asheville, North Carolina, which is in the westernmost region of North Carolina. It's a beautiful space to be, but like all places, we all struggle with the trash that's coming down our urban waterways. So our organization's been around since 1973, and we work on all sorts of issues facing our watershed, just like the rest of you. So one of the things that we did a few years ago was we developed our own litter trap. So we call it the Trash Trout. We have 53 of these traps in 5 states, and we developed this program for ourselves originally because we wanted something that could go after the trash that was just immediately coming down our urban streams, because we were putting a lot of energy into going out, cleaning up those streams continually. And we were hearing from our volunteers was like, we've just been in the stream last week or the week before that, and the trash is back there again. So we started with this as a tool, a local tool for us to use for advocacy. So we wanted to gather the data from it. We wanted to go ahead and be able to use that data to start doing some upstream work, working on ordinances, getting more communities involved. And the program was really successful for us. But we also wanted to make sure that we're not just creating a Band-Aid here. And for us, that's what Trash Trout is. It's just a Band-Aid. These litter traps truly are. And so we then developed our program called Streamkeeper. So Streamkeeper started for us during just right in the middle of COVID, because we were all struggling with how are we going to get groups of persons together and still continue the work that's happening out in the watershed. So we created this highly trained corps of volunteers that can take on more complex tasks. So, beyond just coming out and showing up for cleanups, but taking on those community issues. So for Streamkeeper, for us, what we do is we dedicate a lot of our time and energy into taking these folks and listening to them, listening to their experiences, their lived experiences, and what communities they're coming from. And then how do we curate an experience where they feel like they are actually giving something back to their watershed? And so our Streamkeeper program and how we put it together is it is a pretty intense training program that they have to go through multiple times throughout the year. But we provide our training on volunteer management, which is a big piece, because our Streamkeepers do help us manage our large volunteer groups in the area. Water quality issues that are facing the region as well too. There's some advocacy that we sprinkle into it. Everything we do at our organization has to be viewed through the lens of equity. So this is something that we also speak of a lot, is how we're being equitable about the work that's happening here what are the communities that are most affected? How can we support them? And then community outreach. Presently, our particular Streamkeeper program is in 3 counties here in Western North Carolina, but we do make this program available to anyone who is working with us on trash trout as well, because we want folks to be able to maintain their traps wherever it's located, to get this data and then also work upstream. What does a Streamkeeper do? Basically, they identify water quality issues that are particularly going on in that particular watershed. And a lot of times these folks have very personal and intimate knowledge with this. So this is really great to have these folks. But one of the things that we pride ourselves in is getting these folks, putting them in the water and going upstream. That we talk about this often, like we're going upstream to see where the problems are. And when they are going upstream, they're able to come across like, oh, this particular property here have a lot of trash, they have a lot of things that's probably in the floodway or the floodplain. Can we work with that property owner to go and find a solution for them? Can we bring them some free dumpsters? Can we bring some volunteers in? Can we talk to them about their property and get it cleaned up, versus serving them with a notice of violation? Because I can sure a lot of you will agree that NOVs work in some instances, but most of the time it's not. It's punitive, and it's difficult for those property owners to try to bounce back from that. So that's one of our tools, is the soft tool of working with community members and trying to get those things out of the floodway before it ever gets into the waterway. And then basically talking to those knowledge-based issues like you all are talking about in these presentations, which are fantastic, by the way, the work that everyone is doing, but talking about what the real issues are, microplastics, small debris, trash, man-made materials, all of those things, and getting those issue areas into person so they can start coming up with those ideas. I am rushing a bit so we can have time here, but I will leave my contact information for folks that want to be able to get in contact with me afterwards. The duties and responsibilities for this program, we do have requirements. So if you do choose to become a Streamkeeper, and we're going to put all this together for you, we hope that you'll also commit to the hours requirements that we have, and then the trainings requirements as well. So to become a Streamkeeper on our side, it is a 6-hour training course. It is broken up into 3-day activities. So it's 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours, each one, reinforcing the next particular program. So the first is a virtual session for 2 hours. The second is an intense, just the Streamkeepers working with us tutorial on the trash trout. And then the third is large group volunteer management. So this is how we teach them how to come together and help us manage those groups of volunteers so we can do a larger project. As you can see here, we do have a minimum of 6 cleanups per year that we ask them to do. They attend quarterly Streamkeeper meetings, and really that's actually turned into sort of a monthly meeting because everyone really enjoys each other. But then having that ability to turn in water quality violations, to participate in something that you all are doing really well, which is brand audits, and then supporting data collecting that we desperately need for all of us. They also support and maintain our local trash trout litter capturing devices, and then keeping posted on what's going on with deep sigh, deep breath on this one here, but legislation impacting water quality in the region. So some simple things that we do is we make sure they have the right tools. And so identifying our Streamkeepers is a big deal for us. So we make sure that all of them have these bright blue vests, name badges. It says Streamkeeper on the back of it as well too, because when you look outside and you see someone stomping around in your creek, you want to know who this is. And so we're trying to make this where folks are very visible. They also get the standard gear like we talked about. So trash grabbers, a tote to put all their gear inside of, chest waders, a scale so they can weigh their recycling and trash. Sharps gloves. So this is something that we've been working with for about the last 10 years or so. So we're buying those really nice point protection Sharps gloves for our Streamkeepers, because they are handling some pretty odd items sometimes. So everything from hypodermic needles to just straight up glass and rusted metal. Reusable fiber mesh trash bags. We're actually getting these from our local brewers in the area. So there's several breweries in the area. So we're getting these really nice woven fiber mesh bags that we're able to use over and over and over for the cleanups. And then of course swag. You've got to get the swag to the volunteers. What else do they receive from us? So complete access to all that GreenWorks has. So all of our trucks, boats, equipment, gear, and even financial resources to be able to get through a project. This funny thing happens once we started lavishing our volunteers with support, gear, tools, and respect. All the projects just bloom from there. It's amazing how that works, isn't it? This is a great example of one of the things our stream keepers do really well. So this didn't give it all the folks in the photo here, but we had 125 regular volunteers. Persons had never been out on cleanups with us, but interspersed, you see the blue vests. Those are our stream keepers. So these stream keepers were taking on, those groups, say 10 to 15 persons in a group. And you can even see it'll have like group, and we split them up. Those persons went to their stream keeper. They went to a particular region. They took on a specific task that day so that we could really focus our efforts in certain areas. And that's what those stream keepers were able to do. They have their walkie-talkies, they have their gear, they have their training, and they can help us multiply the efforts of those volunteer groups wherever they're working at. And so extraordinarily valuable folks. And as you can see, they're very visible in this sea of beautiful green volunteers. This is Rosemary Sanfranic, one of our fantastic stalwart stream keepers. She's on one of our larger trash trout devices, out there cleaning one of our traps. And as you can see, it's pretty hairy out there, but feeling empowered and trained to do this. The reason why I included this particular slide is because we do also train on, sort of swift water and paddle training for folks that do go out with us. And Rosemary, she did fall in, but all the other stream keepers did have the right training to be able to get her out safely and no scratches or bruises. Just like to always say that you can't train enough, and when you do, it's well needed in these situations. A bigger one that we do as well too is loads and loads and loads of just getting in the water and cleaning up. And so here's some of our stream keepers walking the streams and cleaning up that trash out of it. There's two. That's Morris and Richard are right there, and then that volunteer in the center cleaning up some trash. The program, this trash drop program we have, absolutely could not run without stream keepers, and I want to be clear about this. We have 53 of these in 5 states. They're all in different waterways, doing different programs and under different circumstances. But one of the things we have found is, and this comes up often, is who's going to maintain this trap that's in the water. It's like, hey, we've got the grant funds to fund it, but then who's going to maintain it? And so one of the things that we try to do is make sure wherever this goes, that we're helping them set up at no charge some type of volunteer program so that they can make sure their trap is maintained, but their waterway is maintained, and then that there's clear communication through the community back to the person who's trying to gather this data. And so really for us, this is just that extra piece that all of our programs need, which is that community engagement. The results that we're finding out through our traps. So we have 10 of our own traps. It's right here in the Asheville area, and so we base our data off of this right here. Our cleanout frequency for our local traps in this area is about every 3 to 4 weeks is when we need to have somebody go in and do their cleanouts. They're collecting around about 17 pounds dry trash, and that obviously that excludes liquids and woody debris that comes with it. And then, no surprise to everyone here, plastic drink bottles, styrofoam, plastic baggies, cigarette butts, styrofoam. Those are your top offenders. I would not have that data. There's only 8 of us on staff here. I would not have that data without stream keepers continually going out, maintaining their traps, tell us what the conditions are, reporting that data back to us, reporting what's going on upstream as well too. And so it's critical that they're doing this. Another thing that's really handy about this whole process that we've been able to figure out is a lot of municipalities in the US, they have NPDES and MS4 reporting that's required depending on the size of the municipality. And so our programs have been able to support those municipalities because they want this data. They want to know where this data is coming from. So all this data that we're gathering can be very useful to those municipalities when they're doing their reporting. but that could also turn into a really, really nice funding support program for that organization that's working as well too. So this could be a great way for you all to be compensated working with a municipality somewhere, because these municipalities do have this as a requirement, and your programs could that you're doing right now could be supported by this as well too. So do look at that if that is interesting to you. And sorry to rush through, but I want to make sure we have plenty of time to talk. Again, my name is Eric with Asheville GreenWorks. This is my contact information. I will put it in the chat as well too. But thank you for your time.
Thank you, Eric. That was great. I appreciate you going speedily, but it's totally fine. We've got lots of time to chat and to have a bit of a panel discussion. But before we do, if anyone has any specific questions for Eric, now is your chance to do that. But while people are thinking, I really like the idea of the stream keepers and ensuring people feel that kind of ownership over their local waterways. And it sounds like it's been really successful. So I feel like you've done a great job there. So thank you for sharing. Okay, so we've got a couple of questions coming in. I've lost where I am in the chat actually. Disappeared. Oh, Susan's asked could you share some more information specifically about the sharps gloves that you use?
Absolutely. I'll put those into the chat, the link of who we're using for that. That's a great question.
Thank you. Yeah, I was interested.
And I have a question. I can't find my raise my hand.
Oh yeah, please go ahead.
Sorry.
It's fine.
I was just curious, Eric, though, I mean, we've only been doing our project and we have something similar, Adopt a Water Goat program, which is similar to your story. I'm just curious, how long did it take you guys to get folks to come on, I would say, and what groups did you tackle or that you have come across that are like more, more keen on helping than there certain groups that you've encountered that are more willing to help than others?
So Monica, that's a great question. And so for us, we've been managing volunteers for 53 years. So we've got this kind of already existing, because we're running over 300 projects a year. We have so many persons just coming to us because there's just so much happening so often. So that's really hard for me to say. It's like, who, is there a targeted group? Because it's so widespread for us here. Asheville, Western North Carolina is kind of the home for volunteering. People come here and they just give so much of their time and service. But some of the things that we've done is we've been targeted. So the local colleges and the schools as well too. We reach out and we say, hey, we have a complex project for you all that you'll get lots of training, but you're going to get into a part of the environmental university you may not get into in other places. That's really appealing. We also reach into the centers for creative living, the centers for creative aging in our area as well too, so that they know this opportunity as well. But I tell you, I just created, while in the middle of this presentation, a social media post just to put out, and here's an opportunity for folks, and it fills up pretty quickly. And I think it's because we're giving people a really sort of behind the scenes, gritty way to get involved in their watershed. And that took years for us to grow. But for us, that targeting is dependent on really the project. And so we try, with the colleges and the schools, and that does really well. But it also, we're really lucky just to throw it out there, and a lot of great folks show up for it. So that's not a great answer, Monica, but it's I think it's more regional for us than anything else that's helped us. Happy to talk offline about it.
Okay, thanks everyone. So I might actually ask our other panelists to turn their cameras back on, and we've got a few minutes now where we can have a bit of a panel discussion. And thank you for sharing, Eric. You are still sharing your screen, just FYI. So if anyone has any questions for anyone specific that you didn't get to ask, or anything for the group, then please share. I do actually have one that I wanted to ask you all to get us started. And it was kind of also mentioned in Eric's presentation that he just gave, which is that alongside in sharing information with our communities, we also know that the people themselves in the community know a lot more than sometimes we might about their local pollution sources or problematic items that they're finding in their local parks or local waterways. And so it's always nice to kind of have that opportunity to learn from them as well. So I was curious about any experiences that you have with learning things from members of the community and any ways that you kind of encourage that in your outreach efforts.
I have one that is related to some of our traps are in inner city, one's near a methadone clinic, but we had a group of our students were out doing the sampling, and a woman came up and she said, "Now that I know you guys are doing this and I know what's going on, I tell my friends not to put their needles down the drain anymore." And I think that the idea was, okay, we'll put them down the drain so that there's no one that's going to get stuck because they're in the trash. And so that was a kind of eye-opening about how people approach the drains. And I think it's the same way with cigarette butts, that people put them down the drain because of being concerned about catching the trash can on fire. Or it's away, and there's a disconnect between the drain and that it actually would go to a waterway. So I think that type of, those were some kind of, like, oh, wow, okay, we have work to do on this, because people are using the drains as a type of trash can for dangerous things. And so, Kennedy, I liked what you were talking about with the little ashtrays, and we've talked about something like that too, especially outside of bars where people go out, they can't smoke inside anymore, so they smoke outside, and then moved an indoor air quality problem to an outdoor debris problem, but they're not putting them in the trash can, even if there is one, because they're on fire. And so I think understanding kind of those behavioral pieces of what people are thinking is important.
Thanks, Christy. We do have it. Dave, I'm sorry, I missed your question in the chat actually before, but I will, if you want to ask it out loud now, feel free
Oh,
to.
sure. Eric, thanks for your really interesting presentation. I mean, you did note that you're quite cognizant of safety matters and that kind of stuff, but do you have to carry liability insurance, and do you have to have participants signing all kinds of waivers? Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I wish my executive was in the room right now, because I think we're paying somewhere in about $16,000 range for our one of our 7 policies that we carry for our volunteers.
Yeah.
But it's because we run so many projects across such a large scale, and so from persons in a boat to persons running a chainsaw. So there's a lot that's there. So
pretty heavy duty stuff. Things can go wrong.
Things can go wrong. So all those layers of safety, all those layers of training, all those layers of making sure there's the accountable person that's there and making sure the project's happening. Yeah, it's very complex, but that's what we've invested in over the last 50 some odd years, is having a staff, having persons that can do that next thing. And that's just not the same for everybody, and it's not the requirement either. So, but the type of work that we do, it demands that kind of thing. So
I will chime in and say that we also have that through the university, though. So we go through the University of Florida, and they have waivers and volunteer signups and waivers and leases or liability forms that they also have to fill out. We're not using chainsaws or anything like that, but we still have all of that as well for all of our volunteers to sign before they.
I'm with the city of Toronto, and we have a group that does a lot of land oriented stuff. But putting it onto water, that ratchets up the level of risk significantly. I have a second point, and just for the group, and that is that I'm thinking that the stream keeper, the litter trap operation, it might align with federal discussions in Canada about an environmental youth corps. So the 2025 federal budget commits to $40 million over 2 years to launch a national youth climate corps. Okay, so that's climate oriented. But I mean, I've selected some of the wording there. I put it in the chat, but it trains youth for careers in green economy. It helps adapt to the changing climate. Right now, this is not climate per se. I've done a lot of work in climate, but it does occur to me that there may be some alignment in this regard.
Thanks, Dave, for sharing. That's really useful. And I can see you've added some information in the chat as well. So thank you for doing that. I do have another question for you. I was curious about when you're talking to people and engaging with your communities in all the many ways that you do, I think often there's kind of this balance between demonstrating the problem and the negative impacts that plastic pollution can have on our waterways and ecosystems, and also kind of letting people know about that at the same time as helping them leave not feeling like overwhelmed with information and that it's all, too late and there's nothing we can do, and helping them leave feeling kind of empowered to do something. So I'm just kind of curious about ways that you might have done that in your various programs.
I would just say one thing that we do that the kids love at our booth are our little spin wheel. So they have to do an activity before they can spin the prize wheel, but what we have come to find out, because yes, they are like, oh, because we talk about their food and their chip wrappers and how that, and it seems like it could overwhelm them, but they do usually get a swag item. And I would say when they get our bamboo utensil kit, they get so excited. And I'm like, look, now you can use it in your lunchbox every day at school. And it's like something like they're like, okay. And I said, and that alone does a whole lot. And we tried to encourage them just by letting them know that making this one little change can help a lot. But I never, the kids get excited about bamboo utensils. It wasn't my first thing. I thought they would like something else. But so just seeing their eyes light up and be like, oh, cool, Mom, look what I got. I can put it in my lunchbox and use this every day. I think that's kind of neat to see. Just again, one change would be very helpful.
Mm-hmm. Small steps. Anybody else want to share? Or I can wait and see if we get another question. Okay, I do have another question for you. Lots. You've given me lots of ideas while we've been sitting here. Out of all the kind of different things that you guys do, and I know that some of you kind of focus on certain things more than others, but do you find there are certain outreach programs or events or things like that that you get way more attendance with, or things that you find you get really good engagement with, that you think like you kind of feel like you get a good response from?
I would just say our tabling events. I mean, we've gone over, I forgot my number already. A total, it was on my slide and I forgot the number, but
a lot.
yeah, our table events get a lot. We try to hit like the St. Pete Science Festival. It's a 2-day event. One day is for school field trip, schools to come and do field trips. We see 60 to 70 students that day. The next day is open to the public from 10 a.m. to 4, and any thousands of kids or folks come. It coincides with FWC, which is right next to where my building's located, their Marine Quest. So it's a huge festival. And then things like the Nature Coast Biological Station's open house, they make sure it coincides with the Seafood Festival. So we get more traction and more people. And that's really where we get most of our education. we try to do schools as well. Like I'm going into a fourth grade class next week to talk to kids. But again, that's only about 20 to 30 students at once. And then because we are in Pasco County, we collaborate with Keep Pasco Beautiful and their UF-IFAS Pasco County office as well, because we know every year they have an Earth Day event, and so we collaborate with them and make sure that there is a trap booth there to get, again, folks, because Pasco County is large, and again, we only have 16 storm drain traps in there, 4 monofilament tubes and 12, so a little bit, 30 to 40 traps, but it's a very, very large county, and so just trying to get into the different outreach events within the county has been pretty helpful. And we did get, last year was our first year doing their Earth Day events, but we got a lot of really good feedback and signups for volunteering. That's where we also always have a volunteer sheet or a QR code to our Google form. So folks, if they're interested, can sign up right there and then. But yeah, for us, that's, and we didn't write anything in our project to go into schools or K through 12 per se. But if we get the opportunity, we take it.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Monica.
One thing we've found is effective that are part of some of our projects are teacher trainings. We have a train the trainer where we can take pieces of the curriculum that we've developed and communicate that with teachers. So run through the curriculum with the teachers, take them on field trips and tours, and then they can incorporate the lessons as needed at whatever grade level they're working at, or with the school clubs. So I think that that's an effective model to reach, even if it's just little bits of the programming. If that's incorporated by a teacher into their lessons, they're reaching 120 plus kids a year. So I think teacher trainings are great for that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Dave has one more question, and I think we'll
Okay,
see.
and I'll say it out loud if you want.
Sure, Dave, go ahead.
Okay, so I mean, it was hard to see in all the displays, the education side of things, and obviously there's the visual pollution, and people get that, and that's ugly, and that's not nice. But I mean, I'm looking at, as a City of Toronto staff member, how do we get people, a lot more interested, because maybe there's human health impacts. I just saw a peer-reviewed paper from New Zealand linking to colon cancer. Our Toronto Public Health group are going to be unleashing a librarian for a current literature review, looking for like what's happening out there, like right up to date. But I mean, are any of the panelists here aware of any direct link of plastic pollution to human health impacts? That's my question.
Well, I could start real quick. We in Rochester, it's a collaboration between RIT and the University of Rochester. It's one of 6 centers for oceans and human health in the U.S. And ours is focused on microplastic in the Great Lakes. And so at RIT, we don't do the human health piece. We are the environmental component of that center. The University of Rochester does the microplastics human health connection more. And I have a figure from a recent review paper showing the number of articles that have come out in the last decade. And it went from something like, I don't know, 8 in 2015 to 4,000 or something like that in 2024. So it's just a exploding area of interest and research. And it's a very challenging one also, because plastic is this huge complex of different kinds of materials and additives and things that happen to it in the environment, and size, and big plastic and micro and nano. So coming to a conclusive, we know this is bad for you, is really, really complex. And we've struggled a lot with that messaging, because people want to know exactly what you're asking. Is it bad for me? And how do I avoid it? And the science is approaching answers to that, but it's not quite there yet. And we've struggled a lot with, yeah, it's in our water, but you should still not drink bottled water. And how to message that without inspiring a lot of fear that, the lake has plastic in it, so they don't want to drink the water, so they'll drink bottled water. And I find it, we find it very hard to walk the line of, we need to do something about this problem. We are worried, but you shouldn't be terrified, is very hard to do. So there is a ton of research out there. If you're putting the city librarian on this, they will be maybe quickly overwhelmed with the number of articles.
I mean, they may be able to utilize, AI search kind of engines to assist them in that work. It is occurring to me that that some consistency in public messaging through, I'm going to say, a coalition of entities that are interested in this might help, because the consistency in the messaging is so vital, so that you don't get people saying, wow, they said this, they said that. And I mean, our American friends may not be aware, but there was a lawsuit that was recently decided whereby Environment and Climate Change Canada was sued by the plastics industry for declaring plastic as toxic. We're kind of anticipating that there will be some form of appeal, because they've got 60 days to do that. So we're waiting for that. And we also know that our federal government has, and Chelsea's been involved with this as a peer reviewer, but we have a state of the science report that's just sitting there, has been done, and it hasn't been released. So, but it's a year old, and that's why our public health librarian is going to be diving into the science. And incidentally, we're also going to be hiring one of Chelsea's postdocs to help us with the state of what is the impact of plastic waste and litter microplastics in Toronto on environmental, social, financial, and also infrastructure impacts. So we'll be coming out with a study on that. And we're close to getting going with Chelsea and the postdoc on that. So I just thought I'd mention that. And I want to say I really appreciate the fact that this group has come together, because it is my task to write a report on what are other cities around the world, other jurisdictions around the world doing about plastic pollution. And I'm going to ask if anyone is aware of someone doing similar work to what I've just said. I'd love to be connected with them, because it's really heavy lifting looking at what's going around on the whole planet. And as some of you are probably aware, that the UN's International Negotiation Committee conference failed in Geneva last August. Unfortunately, there is a meeting right now in Tokyo of about 20 different countries. It's an unofficial meeting, but they're talking at the level of, okay, well, if we can't get an international thing, can we at least get something going? So I just wanted to say that, and I better be quiet because we got to finish up.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, sorry, we are at the hour and I'm getting antsy that everyone's going to drop off. So if anyone wants to continue chatting after, please do. I can share the the email addresses of all of our speakers afterwards. So before we finish, I just wanted to say a really huge thank you to everyone who has attended, asked questions. You've been super engaged. It's been fantastic. And obviously, a huge thank you to our speakers as well for taking the time to join us today for 2 hours out of their busy schedules and answering all of your wonderful questions. And just quickly before we close, we wanted to share some ways that you can keep in touch. So as I said, I'll share the emails of all presenters who spoke today, but you can also email us if you have any questions and we can connect you. And as I mentioned at the start, we are hoping to continue these webinars in the future. So if you have any topics that you really want to discuss, in detail and you think that it would be a useful topic for us to host a webinar about, please do let us know. We'd really like to hear from you. But with that, I think I will let everyone head off. So thank you so much once again. It was really great to have you all here today, and we hope to see you again very soon.